So in this video we are going to see about observer design pattern. Observer design pattern is a behavioral design pattern where an object is known as subject. So we have a subject is another name of the subject is called as observable. Okay, maintain a list of dependent and called observers, okay, that are notified of any changes in the subject state. This pattern is often used to implement distributed event handling. This is the brief introduction about observer design pattern. So you have a subject, you have observers, the subject, any changes on the subject side, the subject has to notify that and the updated information to the observers. So this mostly used in distributed event handling environments. Okay, this is the basic thing about the observer design pattern. So then we are going to see about this is the basic structure of your observer design pattern. You will be having a subject. The subject have a permission. Subject is nothing but a class. The class can have a methods like add the observers, remove the observers, and one of the very important thing is notify the observers. So these are all the methods we can have it in observer subject side. Okay, or we call it as observable class. Then we have one more thing. The topic itself, we know that it is an observer interface. So observer interface, which have one abstract method which is called as update method. So this if you we said like we have many dependent or observers. This observers has to implement, the update method which is available on the observer interface. So the flow will goes like this. So if the subject or observable will have any new updates, it has to update that information to the observer. The observers or the dependent who are all waiting for the new updates has to implement this update method. If they have implemented, the updated message will forwarded to the observers. So this is so basically the subject will add the observers like observer A and observer B. As well it can remove the observers, it can notify the observers, but the notification will not directly go to the observers. It will go through the observer interface. From the observer interface, this will forwarded or implemented in the observer classes. So subject and observers are the classes, and observer is a interface. Okay, then we'll see that some basic requirements for the observer interface. The two main basic requirements are you have to implement you have to import that observable class and observer interface. That's the two main things you have to use in your observer design pattern or observer interface implementation. So these are all already explained. Then we'll go to the example for observer method and design pattern in Java. So problem statement. So it's a very apt example for the observer interface. So you have a weather station. The weather station has to update it, update its temperature to every observers regularly in a regular interval basis. So the that means the weather station is the subject here, current condition display and statistics display are the two observers we have. So how this can be implemented by using observer interface, let's see. So what are the main four things you have to concentrate? You have to create observable class, observer interface, and observers, and last one is your main method. Okay, we'll see how it is going to be implemented. So first you will see that weather station, it's an observable interface or subject. So here as I said, first you have to create a list. Why you should create a list? Now you are going to add the observers in that list. Okay, and the value which you are going to update, you have to declare that value. So this is the method where you are going to add the observers, like which observer you wants to add and where you are going to add in the list. Okay, same way you can remove the observer also, the remove which observer you are going to remove, and you have to call the method from the list to remove that. Okay, then the next method is set temperature. You have to update the temperature, notify and update the temperature. So you have to pass the value which you wants to update, and it has to be initialized. After that you have to notify the temperature. So it's going to be called the notify observers. The notify observer, it directly going to be notify observers. You have to call all the, that means you have to invoke all the observers in your observer list. So observer dot update. So this all, as I already said, it has to be updated to the observer interface. Next is you have to go for observer interface. So observer interface, like we have one method which is called as update method. With what it's going to be update, it's going to be update the temperature. That's one of the parameter we have in this update int method. It's an abstract method. Then we'll go for the concrete classes, concrete observers. Like concrete observer is nothing but observer classes. First class, it's a class current condition display, which as I already said, this observers has to implement observer interface. So it has to implement the observer interface and declaring the variable. It has to implement the update method. So it has to initialize the temperature, whatever updated temperature it has, and it has to call that method for displaying the updated information. Same way, the statistics display also going to be implement the same steps. Like it, the only thing is it's the class name itself is going to be changed. It's going to be implement the observer. It has to declare the variable. It has to implement the update method with the temperature, and it called the display method where it is going to be updated the temperature value. So next last one is your main method, where we have to create a object for all the classes. Weather station class, observer A, like current condition display, statistics display. For all these things you have to create an object. By using that object, weather station object, you have to add the observer. The name of the observer is current condition display. Next one is statistics display, that's also added, and you have to call the method set temperature with the value which you want to update. So it will going to be called the notify method. Notify method will call the update. Update will be updated with the observer interface. From the observer interface, the classes which are updated implemented, they have to be updated. So after the execution, the current condition display will be, temperature will be 25.5, as well statistics display also 25. So again you will in the weather station is going to be set the temperature at 30.5, 30, then that value also going to be received by the both the observers. Okay, last one, that is here the weather station dot remove observer, which is going to be remove the current condition display. That means it's removed from the list of observers. Okay, after removal, it's going to be upload one more value, which is 28 Fahrenheit. So that has to be updated with only the statistics display, because you don't have one more observer. So this is the basic logic and implementation about the observer design pattern. Thank you.